All right, I think we're good.
Good, good. Thanks, Robbie. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to TAB's FusionRMS tips and tricks with our TAB Fusion team. My name is John Newman. I'm the Global Director of our Technology and Services team at TAB. Along with me is Robbie Clark, who is our Technology Solutions Consultant. One of the important things at TAB is, as we're providing technology to our customers, is to make sure that the user experience is excellent. And as we continue making developmental changes within the technology, that our customers are able to take advantage of those changes. So just kind of getting a little bit of a background of Fusion and how is it used today in the market. There are customers that are using Fusion in different ways, but there are a lot of opportunities within the technology to really take advantage of the full life cycle of information. So generally speaking, there's typically 4 phases of life cycle management, and it starts in the creation phase, which even from a legacy perspective, information can be created in physical form. It can be as a physical document that ends up in a physical folder. They can also be through digitization and imaging, along with uploading of information or just native creation of content. If it's a Word document, an Excel document, a PDF, or even email, or other types of documents that are out there in the marketplace, even movies and videos. One of the most important components then is really, how do you classify that information? How do you use it and find it? The customers that we have using Fusion have an absolutely incredible database of information within Fusion. And that's all done through that classification of all content that's stored in TAB. That then allows customers to not only improve workflows and processes within the technology, but also to incorporate data analytics and using that data that's within your Fusion application to make business decisions. And then within the data, and even within the documents that are stored in Fusion, for those that are using it electronically, is having that opportunity for OCR searching. So using it effectively is really a main driver of how customers are using Fusion across the board. And then when it comes to storing information, this is really one of the key components is we do have customers that use it at an enterprise level, and we have customers that use it down to a department level. And Fusion has the ability to create that kind of a structure, but also from a security perspective is creating the permissions so that users that are accessing the system are secure to only see the information that they can and desire and need to see. And secondarily is make the changes to information that they're able to make based on those permissions, which really brings us into that auditability and integrity of your data and the information that you have within there. Those that are using the electronic side, there's of course the version control. So maintaining, again, that integrity of that document, no matter if it's been changed, if it's been taken out and brought back in, you can always resort back to the original document that was attached. And then incorporating disaster recovery if within your infrastructure to make sure that you can always have access to a backup copy of your records, your data, your images, etc. And then lastly, but probably not least important, probably most important, is really the design and taxonomy of how that structure is put together. So we talked about how some clients are using Fusion from an enterprise perspective, and some are using it at a department level as well, or simply at a department level. But the taxonomy of how you manage your clients or your portfolios, the products or the files that are within there, and of course the documents and the versions of documents across your entire repository. And then lastly is of course the closure side. So information is created, it's used, it's stored, it's accessed effectively, but then at some point it runs its life cycle to what would be considered closure. And sometimes that's a paid in full date for a loan or a retention date on some sort of file or document. And that has to be incorporated into it if there's a merger and an acquisition. For how long do you keep that information once it is divested, for instance? And within Fusion, we have a very powerful retention tool that allows you to manage and automate that process using that governance and retention codes that are within organizations, but also incorporating things like legal holds and retention holds and retention at specific documents based on that type of document. So again, from a Fusion perspective, we want to make sure our clients are using this across the entire spectrum from creation all the way through closure and disposition. And they're really looking at the framework of the technology. Fusion, at its core, has the ability to manage data and the integrity of that data across the entire life cycle. That data is then incorporated into the governance and the controls and things that are applied to it based on corporate standards and compliance within records management or information governance. And then, of course, you have the ecosystem around that, which has the opportunity for data integrations or feeds of data coming from primary systems like accounting systems or core systems that will bring it and auto-populate it into Tab. And then we have two different sides of the way some customers are using it. Many customers are using just the electronic side, which is managing all their electronic content from creation through closure. But then there are other customers that are using it for physical or a combination of both. So we know today that, especially in the last 5 months, how organizations are trying to go through that digital transformation, but they still have paper floating around, wet signatures, and things that actually have to be retained in a physical file and potentially ultimately a box. So it brings both sides of managing information together. And then, of course, you have the accessibility of that information, if it's for viewing or requesting or super user components of how do you manage and find information to make business decisions, and administrators that can administer the application. That's the entire framework of how Fusion is implemented in many environments today. So Robbie, let's take a look at the evolution, if you will, of where we had been or where we have been and where we are today. Over the last 10 years, Tab has continued to put a lot of development into our technology. There's a lot of customers that are still on previous versions that are in the 9.x, if it's 9.3 or 9.4. If you're on that version, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are out of compliance or you're not supported. But what that does mean is that we're putting a lot more development into our most current versions. So the 10.2s and the 10.3s. And we and most of our customers desire that we start moving people to the most current versions for a variety of reasons. One of those reasons is just an overall technology and infrastructure perspective. We want to make sure that Fusion is workable within some of the third parties that Fusion has to work with. If it's Microsoft operating systems, if it's the backend infrastructure and the server environments, we want to make sure that Fusion is compatible with all those infrastructure components. And then secondly is just the overall feature set and the development that we want to put into it to make it a better product. So we've made a lot of advances since the 9.x versions into the 10.3, which will be coming out next year. In 2017, we made a pretty major jump from 9.4 to 10.0. And one of those major advancements was really modernizing the web interface. There's some customers that are using desktop and some customers are using web, and there's some that are using a combination of both. But we wanted to ensure that for those that wanted to use a web experience, that we gave them a very modernized view that was easy to use, and that's actually what you'll be seeing later during this session when Robbie's showing you a few of the things that we've done with Fusion. Then, of course, in 2018, we came out with 10.1, and then more recently in 2020 is 10.2. As I referenced before, we're really excited about our next release in early 2021, either quarter 1 or quarter 2, which will be 10.3. And just kind of a sneak peek underneath the hood, if you will, we've really accelerated the speed and response when you're doing global searching or doing things within the technology. We've created an easier ability to do editability within the grid. So you don't have to necessarily open up that forms view. Everything can be done within the grid. We've created some more modernization within the individual user experience. And we've also added a lot more as it relates to security and how people can access Fusion. Of course, when we came out with the 10.x versions, we also added our web app or our mobile app that's available to our customers as well. So Robbie, let's take a look at some of the key updates and the things that we're going to look at today. You know, this list is really stemmed from our customers' feedback. As we're making some of these advancements of bringing people into 10.2 or the most current versions, there's some new things on the screen, some things that they haven't seen before. And as referenced earlier on, you know, we want to make sure that our customers' experiences are excellent. We want to make sure that not only are you getting the best technology, getting the best service, but also getting a great user experience. So we're going to start out with my favorites, and my favorites is really, you know, an opportunity for users individually to move or to create a hyperlink to individual files or documents or records in their user experience. I often will relate this to, you know, moving folders to your desk throughout the day, and then historically you had to move them back to the file cabinet at the end of the day. But with my favorites, you can move files and documents and records over to your user interface so you can actually work those and then release them once you're completed. Robbie?
Yeah, so I'm going to log in here as an administrator and take a look at a records collection and create a my favorites list. So in the new user experience of 10.2 on the left-hand side, right below the My Queries button will be your favorites. So here we'll show you any existing favorites, and that really allows you fast access to the documents, either you're adding as new or already kind of existing in the system itself. And this, of course, has the new document viewer, which really gives you kind of quick access to these records, allowing you to download them and view them with the new modernized user experience. To add a new favorite, I'm going to populate this files grid here. And I just click on this heart button and select the new favorite. That will then allow me to define the new favorite, and then I can simply just check off the records that I want to add to it, use the heart button again, and add to that favorite.
Thanks, Robbie. And again, this is a great feature when it comes to just getting quick access to your documents, your files, things you're working on, things that have to be completed, and then transitioning them out. The documents never leave the overall database. It's just a matter of creating a quick hyperlink to those documents so you can work them quickly and effectively without having to replicate that search process every single time and every single day of those collections you're working on. Secondly is my queries, and my queries stemmed from a lot of customers that were building reports and building custom reports for everything that they wanted to do within the application. Every user was a little bit different, and really it came from doing some sort of data analytics on what there is within the application. And the My Queries allows you to save these queries based on your user experience, so you don't have to recreate them every single time you want to make that transition or do that same process. And it's very easy to do, and you don't have to do any sort of customization. So, Robbie?
So I'm going to go down here to this documents table here. So let's look at some documents we're managing electronically. So these documents, I can just click on this paper clip and view any attachments that are inside the documents. But if I wanted to query or search on the records grid here in Fusion, I can use this query button at the top. And this has all of my search commands that I can use, as well as different document types and things that define what I'm looking and searching for. If there's a way I'm searching for these documents or this information constantly, that's where we have the save query feature. So I can just hit this save button here, and then it becomes a part of the user experience on the left-hand side, where I can quickly click on these queries and get the search results. And what's nice is these are actually saved, predefined in the system, so you never have to key in this information again once it's saved. You can also update the query to kind of tweak it to report and get the exact data and information you're trying to look at.
Thanks, Robbie. And again, the user experiences, every user has the opportunity to make these if they do have the ability to within the application across the entire database. So if there's new documents that have come in the day before and you want to query that the next morning, or if there's documents that are eligible for disposition, you can run that query without having to recreate it every single time. Next is around data structure. And data structure, we kind of talked about taxonomy earlier on, but this is something that a lot of clients are looking to incorporate differently. A lot of those that have already taken that electronic route have a lot of this established, but for those that need to advance the way in which they're creating that data structure, Tab has a lot of flexibility of files or clients to files, files to documents, and identifying more information within the document or the file to create more abilities to mine that data within the application. Robbie?
Absolutely. So on the left-hand side in this navigation panel, what I can see is my individual records collection. So if I click on accounting, I can see the accounting collection. If I click on legal down below, I can see the contracts here. And this allows you kind of quick access to these, the records and the information within the grid. It allows you to kind of create a structure where you can kind of go from a parent down to a child relationship. So here is a list of clients. I can drill down to the files associated with those clients. These are records I'm physically managing, but Fusion can also manage the digitized attachments within the file. So these, using that data structure in the index here to really leverage what you're searching and what you're trying to create rules around the information in the system.
Very good. Thanks, Robbie. And we hear more every day about the data being important. The document is absolutely important, and we're seeing this transition from historically scanning things and naming it in the most simple terms, but now adding more data elements to those documents so you can narrow down your search and do a better job of finding the right information that you're looking for. And then also from an exception perspective is if there is a file created and there's supposed to be 10 documents or 5 documents or 3 documents that create a complete file, we can incorporate exception processing that identifies if there's certain documents that are missing, or if there's documents that have been received, but they're not correct documents, and you have to ask for the correct document from the person that you're supposed to receive it to. So there's a lot of ways in which we can help enhance the data structure of the application. Lastly, and we kind of talked about this early on when it relates to closure, also with indexing and classifying as well, is the retention management and using retention schedules within the Fusion application. Organizations today, they have retention schedules and governance, and even though things are electronic, you still want to have a way in which you can define and determine when those documents should run their disposition process. It was easier when it was a physical file room, because if there's too many files and you ran out of space, you had to make that transition. So we want to incorporate some very powerful retention within the technology. Robbie?
So let's take a look at some physical records we're applying retention to. So I'm going to click on these files. And to view the actual retention and what we're applying to this file, I'm going to click on this button here and view the actual retention information. This is where we can apply the individual retention code based on that user's permissions, and you can also add and apply legal holds if necessary. This is all being reported in the back end through the reporting module in Fusion under retention reports, figuring out what's eligible for disposition and fulfilling the record throughout its life cycle. Retention is also defined typically down here on the bottom left-hand side where I can import existing retention schedules or create new ones and edit them as necessary. So here I can set a certain retention code and periods and set their trigger date as well. We can leverage any dates in Fusion. These are just some examples of how we can set that up and work with our customers.
Very good. Thanks, Robbie. And we all know how important retention is, but one important note to add there is that information doesn't necessarily have to be completely deleted. You can also run it through an archive process where it simply removes it from access of the application versus simply being deleted in its entirety. So lastly is our image viewer. And we've made a lot of enhancements in the 10.2 and more recent versions of our image viewer. Not just the look and feel, which is something that some people see as looking differently, but also some of the browsers that people have opportunities to use. We now support Internet Explorer, Edge, Chrome, and also Safari for our Apple friends out there. Robbie?
So this collection of documents I have has the paperclip symbol. So if I hover over it, it's going to give me an example of an attachment or something I've scanned. The new viewer, you can do a scan on demand leveraging any standard Twain driver. And I could also add an attachment, new attachment by clicking this paperclip button here. And that will just bring the document in. So it's a real great repository for any record or piece of information there. I can also kind of use and go back here and leverage my favorites workflow. We see this new documents area, and I can click and view a record, open up the viewer, and actually view the individual attachments here, and the actual pages of the record itself. This is now can be OCR, is all OCR searchable via this tool here. Fusion you can add new attachments, create new versions, and really have a great experience with downloading and accessing this record. We also can have full text search capabilities with that OCR. So up here on the left, I can do a quick search for a keyword, and it's going to scan Fusion and not only search for the metadata that's being exposed in your records grid, but if that word is found in an attachment. So it's scanning the system, looking for that keyword, and highlighting it within the application.
Thanks, Robbie. And you know, there's a lot of opportunities to really search for information within documents now through that OCR search windows, both on the global searching and also within the document. But then we've also incorporated, which is similar to one of the older desktop versions, where you can take documents and put into a shopping cart, if you will, collect documents, and then send that shopping cart of documents to an individual if that's the way in which you want to transfer that information. So we've added quite a few things into our image viewer as well. So with all that being said, again, one of our goals is to make sure that our customer user experience is exceptional. Make sure that all the things that are available that you're aware of, especially in our newest versions and in our future versions. But I don't want to skip past some of the areas in which we can help you. You know, one of the areas is, you know, how do you get to that next transition of the next version? We do have dedicated team members at Tab that can provide dedicated upgrades to the most current version, do it very seamlessly. It's something that our team does often, just about every day. Within those upgrades, we can also do enhancement packages to make sure that any configurations or changes or things that you want us to help you develop and configure or customize within the application is done through that process as well. And then secondly is looking at what I call a gap analysis. So we realize that our team that we're in these systems every day. We know what the features and functions are, and just kind of doing a side-by-side of how you're doing something today and looking at a different way of doing it in the future, or something that you weren't aware of that's within the application. And for those that are looking at different modules, if you're just using electronic today, but you still have some physical documents, or if you have physical documents and you want to add the electronic module, we can kind of unify and expand that system to make it more useful. And then, of course, the configurations within the application. And we've also developed a training curriculum that has been very successful with our customers, where we can train both the administrators and then also the users as well. We recognize that organizations change and their employees, and as new people are onboarded, we want to again make sure that your experience is very good. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. And if there's any other topics that you desire for us to you know, talk to you about, we welcome that as well. Again, our goal is to make sure that our customers are getting a great experience, getting greatest support, and we're here to help you. So thanks everybody for your time, and please reach out with any questions or comments. Thank you.